Our next session featuring top leaders of leading cement companies who will share their insights on the future trends and innovations in the cement industry from a sustainability perspective. This session promises to offer valuable perspectives on the way forward for the Indian cement industry as it travels on the sustainability path. As we welcome our moderator, I must encourage everyone to join me in a big round of applause. Serving as independent director on the boards of a few listed, unlisted entities in sectors such as infrastructure, engineering, energy, and print media. The moderator has worked with reputed companies like Reliance Cement, Reliance Infrastructure, ACC Limited, and etc. Ladies and gentlemen, with a big round of applause, please welcome Mr. Sumit Banerjee, Chairman, Board of ASAP Info Global Services Private Limited. First speaker for the panel started his career with FMCG and then moved on to consulting role where he spent 19 years leading several strategy and business performance improvement studies covering growth strategy, market entry, supply chain improvement and cost reduction. In his current role as CEO, he is vehemently working towards making JSW Cement a 50 metric ton company in next few years. Please welcome Mr. Nilesh Narvekar, CEO, JSW Cement. Our next panelist is currently on the way. Well, I must apologize on his behalf. Well, but we do all understand Delhi traffic. I'm talking about the former additional member of Railway Board. His earlier assignments included Chief Operations Manager and Chief Commercial Manager of Northern Railway. Ladies and gentlemen, shortly joining us will be Mr. Sanjeev Garg, Managing Director, Pipavav Rail Corporation and Director General, Chartered Institute of Logistics. Our next speaker is heading the capacity of 45 MTPA, contributing 30% of total Ultratech capacity. Mr. Gupta has a multifunctional expertise, technically inclined and highly empowered professional with significant 38 years of experience. Please welcome Mr. Shailendra Kumar Gupta, Chief Operating Officer and North Cluster Head, Ultratech Cement Limited. Our next panelist, with a 30-year-long career, includes a 22-year stint in the cement industry. He is responsible for conceptualizing, engineering, implementation, and commissioning of all projects. Achieving higher outputs, energy conservation, cost optimization, environmental sustainability, and statutory compliances have been his forte. Please welcome Mr. Pankaj Kejriwal, Executive Director, Star Cement Limited.
My old friends and new friends, good morning to you, or good afternoon. Gives me great pleasure to join here today and have the privilege of moderating this panel discussion. I have very esteemed panelists. One of our panelists is expected to join soon, but we will start in the interest of good time management, and I think we are already running half an hour accumulated delay, and we'll try to do as best a job as we can in terms of time management. Introductions are already done, so no need to tell you who our panelists are. But as for myself, I just want to tell you that I'm not here as a cement industry professional, but I today wear the hat of a journalist because I represent Indian Cement Review, which is the only cement industry journal in the country, and its job is to review, I repeat the word review, the cement industry, and therefore it should be my job as a journalist to ask inconvenient questions, which is the correct job of a journalist, isn't it? And that's the way probably the audience here today can be better informed about what's happening on the topic. So I'll just take 2 minutes, not more than 2 minutes, just to set the context and the frame, how we are going to frame this discussion. We have had some email exchanges over the discussion here, and I would just like to say that the issue of carbon dioxide emissions from the cement industry is a very hotly discussed and debated topic. Excuse me. Your introduction has been already given. Mr. Garg has joined us. That completes the panel. So coming back to the way I want to just frame the discussion is that about sustainability, about of the industry, about CO2 emissions challenge. There is a lot of discussion, and cement industry is right at the forefront of the climate debate, along with steel and a few other industries. This whole thing about sustainability is about people, planet, and profit. And I don't know which one comes first. Different people may take different item of these as a first priority, but then let's consider them all equal. But when it comes to planet, and that's what probably we are here to talk about, when it comes to planet, technology is the only way to improve our sustainability in the industry, and therefore it's very appropriate that we have the conference theme, and particularly this panel discussion theme, as technology and innovation in sustainability of the industry. So that's all about the context. I would now like to first fire what is called a rapid fire question. Only one question, rapid fire. And it's a yes and no answer. After that, we will roll out the other questions. But this is a little bit out of syllabus. The rapid fire question, and I will start with Mr. Gupta. Any cement company in India, or the Indian cement industry as a whole, or the global cement industry, do any of them have a longer term strategic plan? I'm saying plan, to achieve net zero cement or net zero concrete by 2050, or is it a dream or a vision? This question, I mean, you will get a lot of chance to express your thoughts and all that subsequently, but this question has a yes and no answer for the audience.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Mr. Garg? I'll say yes on paper. Please use the microphone. Let everybody hear.
I'll say yes on paper at least.
So you mean, I mean, I'm not giving a repartee, but you mean there is a strategic plan on paper? Yeah. Okay. Nilesh?
Yes, again with a little bit of a context that the journey is still far, and I think many more steps have to be taken. But the intent is there, the direction is there, the execution elements have to fall in place.
Okay. A bit nebulous, but yeah. Okay, Mr. Kejriwal?
An absolute yes on this subject. As in the earlier panel, it was said that Indian industry is a global leader in many aspects in terms of capacity utilization, in terms of energy efficiency. Of course, on this net zero, we may be slightly late. We may be slightly low in our TSR as of now, but by 2050, we will definitely achieve it. And then industry is taking steps.
Okay. So audience, you might have noted that all my esteemed panelists have basically said yes to the question that yes, there is a strategic plan to achieve net zero cement or concrete by 2050. Now I come to the little more elaborate question on the same subject, on the same topic, and I'll go this way now. The question is, now if such a plan exists, and this theme of this panel is, we need to remember, is about future technologies. So my question is, what frontiers of technology are opening up? What future technologies are we going to harness in making this plan? Now you get a chance to elaborate on the plan. In making this plan to achieve substantive, now I'm not talking about net zero, but I'm saying substantive reductions in carbon dioxide emissions by the industry. So starting with Mr. Kejriwal.
See, basically, we all are aware that there are two main issues the cement industry faces. One is the process-based emissions, and other is the other allied emissions associated with the power generation, electricity consumption, or the logistics involvement, which leads to CO2 emissions. So in terms of technology, of course, we all are looking at the carbon capture technology, which has to go a long way ahead, where the more innovations will be required to finally capture the CO2 which is being emitted. Of course, we are already working on alternative raw materials, and where various different kind of blended cements are coming up. Like, for example, LC3 is what we are now really working on, which will eventually lead to a lower clinkerization factor. But at the end of the day, clinker will need to be manufactured, which will emit CO2. So I think CO2 capture is one thing which we really need to work on. And of course, we have been working on alternative raw materials. And then if you look at the third pillar, which is the electricity consumption in cement, which needs to move to more to a greener electricity. This also applies to the transportation sector, where we can move to the electric vehicles. So I think this combination of three or more future technological development will lead to a major reduction in the CO2 emissions. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think your answer is to the point, and I commend you for that. Thank you very much. Just for the audiences, just to jog your memories, the CO2 produced in cement manufacture has two major components, the scope 1 emissions, two major components, one coming from the CO2 that is emitted from the fuel, whatever fuel you burn, and the other one is emitted from the process of calcium carbonate breaking up into CO2 and CaO, which is inherent in calcium carbonate. So with that thought in your mind, I will now pose the same question to Mr. Narvekar.
So Sumit, I mean, at the end of the day, I think what Pankaj mentioned is there's, of course, the 3-4 themes. There are 3 or 4 themes that stand out. One, of course, is the carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Now there's intent is there. There's still a lot of investment to be done. How do you get the hubs, supply chain? There's a full detailed report by Niti Aayog. I think there's a lot of thoughts there. There's a way ahead. I think that has to play out for us to be able to capture it. In a hard-to-abate industry like cement, CO2 capturing and what we do with it is very, very critical. There are a couple of other thoughts as well. I mean, when I was coming for this, Sumit, to be very honest, I was preparing for it, and I spoke to a lot of our own colleagues, our R&D folks, and a host of others. And there were a couple of things that they were mentioning, very interesting. They said alternate clinker production, and I was actually trying to get my head around that. They said clinker-free binders exist, low clinker binder exist. I said, okay, then I was told about novel kiln technology. And that's when I was asking them, okay, this novel kiln technology, what would it be? I mean, what exactly does it do? And in summary, what it basically is, what we're talking about is, it's an electrochemical process. It'll produce pure CO2. And what do we do with the pure CO2? Of course, it gets used by the food industry for storage, basically for freezing of the material. So there is a circularity element that kind of bakes into that. So that's another area, again, early stage, but yeah, that's something that can be explored. Low carbon products is something which is being explored. I know it is not, as you mentioned, it has to be disruptive, but there's a phrase that I learned at CO COP28 when I went. It said, let perfect not be the enemy for good. It said perfect not be the enemy for good. So I'm kind of extending that narrative a little, and I'm basically saying there is still a fair journey that we need to traverse, even to achieve what we can with the current resources, the current output, and the current technology that it generates. So yes, there is substitution possible. There are blended cements and all that stuff that is currently happening. There's a lot more that can be done. Carbonation of concrete is another such theme which is actively and being explored. Elements around using specific raw materials from other industries, like steel, different types of steel slag, which gets used as a raw material for cement. I mean, one such thing which is aluminum laterite, replacing it with ladle furnace slag, using of other types of slag that we've got. Again, driving home the point that there is still a lot of distance I need to travel just to be good at the current output that we have. Would be some of the aspects that I would mention, and of course, not to belabor the point, but yeah, talking about geopolymer cement, where we don't need limestone to be able to have cement produced. We can take a completely different route to go ahead and do it. So these would be some of the thoughts that I have in this space.
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Kejriwal mentioned carbon capture as a substantive prospective measure, and you have mentioned several. So we will dwell on those in a bit. For Mr. Garg, of course, I'm very happy that you are in the panel and you could make it, and that's because you are going to give us an outside-in view in a way that you have definitely strong associations, but you are not from inside the industry. So would you like to take this question? Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah. I'll rather handle it from a different perspective, that is from the point of view of a logistics man, because cement industry also involves logistics, movement of raw materials and the finished product. And that is where also carbon emissions matter. Currently, for instance, out of the total whatever production of cement that is happening in the country, 75% of it is moving by road to the distribution points. And if anybody has traveled on the Delhi-Jaipur highway, for instance, I'm just giving an example, it's choked with huge trucks transporting cement from Rajasthan to NCR. And whereas you have rail connectivity from the cement plants to NCR, but for whatever reasons, the majority of the product is moving by road. So only 25% of the total production is moving by rail. And that means the rail coefficient is barely 25%. So if you have to reduce carbon emissions for cement transportation, you have to increase the rail coefficient to at least 50%. It cannot be 100%, I can well understand. Partly because over time, the cement units have moved closer to the consumption centers and consumption points. So to that extent, I can well understand that rail loses its charm. But nevertheless, we have to develop strategies to at least increase the rail coefficient, say at least 50%, and that will have a substantial effect on the CO2 emissions on account of transportation of the product. Same is applicable to the raw materials. Well, fortunately, as I said, they are also moving closer to the raw material points, whether it's colliery or limestone or whatever. So the fact does remain that the cement industry, apart from the fact that CO2 emissions on account of production have to come down, but equally, if not, I won't say more importantly, but equally at least, the CO2 emissions on account of movement of raw material to the steel plants and the movement of finished product from the cement plant to the consumption points also needs to be examined, and the CO2 effects of that have to be reduced.
Yes, Mr. Garg, thank you. People say that climate mitigation or CO2 mitigation almost always has a business case. And your point about converting road traffic into rail traffic exemplifies that point. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and I'll say the balance 50% which moves by road, we hope it will move in electric vehicles.
Yeah. So, and to also push your point, we used to say that cement is a logistics business, but I think it has today become more and more of a logistics business. It's not just moving cement, it's moving clinker, fly ash, slag, and all kinds of stuff across the countryside. And the whole issue of logistics and scope 2 emissions for the cement industry has become significant factor. So I come to Mr. Gupta now, and to you the original question that, what are the future technologies that we are looking at which can conceivably cut our CO2 emissions in a substantive manner?
That's right. I agree with Mr. Pankaj and Nilesh Garg, what they said actually. These are the important factors in case of reduction of the carbon emission. Like in case of, if you see in case of the carbon capture, definitely everybody is working upon how we can use for this technology carbon capture, utilization and storage. But still the technology is not so developed, as well as it's required a huge investment. So we need a support of the technology supplier, what they can do it. And actually, and also we have to see that how government can provide a support to have this, because capturing is one part, utilization another part, and storage is another part. There are the three factors in this. One is capturing, utilization, and storage. So like in case of utilization, still we do not know how to be utilized, whether alternate building materials, or in case of the chemical, or in case of some other product like plastic or something, where to be utilized. That is also still there is a big barrier in this, because the people are not knowing. Storage, capturing is easy part, but utilization is a important factor, how to be utilize this. And second thing is storage. It's required a huge infrastructure. Actually, that is also a big problem. Till that we do not find out the solution of utilization, very difficult to utilize this one, carbon capturing, which is very much important. And without that, I don't think that we can go for the neutral carbon by 2050, because that is important. We can reduce it, but in case of the neutral, this is very much important technology where we have to work upon. Second thing, in case of the green energy, which is very much important. Today, if you see, in case of the total, the holistic view, if you take for the total cement industries, maybe about 20% or 25% of green energy is converted for non-fossil fossil fuel. But still, we have to go for a long way, about 80% or 90% of energy to be converted. Like we have to go for WHRS, we have to go for solar, we have to go for wind power, or we have to go for hydel power, composite power. That we have to see how we can convert the total energy, because you know that the cement is a energy intensive unit, where we required more energy to produce the cement. For that we had to work upon, and everybody has to work towards those technologies. Technology is available, but still we have to find out the more technology, how we can go. Like in case of the solar, we are getting the power, whatever the solar panel we are putting it, in daytime we can utilize it, but then in night it is difficult to get it. So we are dependent on either grid or thermal power. So for that we have to see that the storage of power by the battery, which is a huge investment is required. So though we need a support from the government, how we have to get it. Either the government has to support, or we have to find out the new technology supplier who can put up a battery bank at lower cost, like lithium-based battery, which is, it is under development. Once it will come, definitely by 2050, we think of that we can convert 100% the energy to this. Like in case of the Ultratech concern, if you say, you might have been gone through the paper that 2 days back only we have announced about 85% of energy will be produced from the non-fossil fuel and will convert by 2030. Next is the circular economics. That is an important part actually. Now the major part, like in case of the fuel, what we are utilizing in case of cement is the coal burning. With that only the process going, but we have to go for the alternate fuels. How we can use the alternate fuels? Presently, if you see the total TSR in case of the Indian cement industry is about 5 to 6%, not more than that. But if you see in case of other countries, it is about 80% or 85%. Definitely, it's related with the volume because our volume is too high. But technology we have to develop. How we can go for 40% in the first phase, and then we have to go for 80%. Definitely, there will be the constant in case of the process related with quality and other things, but there is a solution. We have to find out. We have to sit together and see that what technology is available in this. So that we have to work out. The roadmap what we have for 2050, that's the important part. We have to work upon the circular economy. We have to work upon green energy. We have to work upon the carbon capture technology, and we have to invest what I feel in case of the R&D. Because presently, the people are investing in R&D is the waste of money. But no, I feel that the R&D is an important factor to reduce the carbon emission because like we have to see the LC3 cement, which is coming up, and also we have to look for recycle aggregate cement. We have to see the 3D printing cementous material. That also we have to work out. So we have to work upon in case of R&D, how we can produce the product, which will be the low carbon product we have to develop. So with this only, I feel that the carbon emission can come out. But rightly, Mr. Pankaj and Nilesh and Garg had said, in case of the logistic is playing a very important role. And I feel the last point, what I would like to touch is the digitalization. Digitalization industry 4.0, which is playing a vital role in case of reduction of the carbon emission, right from the mining stage to the end of this. Either in case of the logistic, we're supposed to have a transparent communication to our transporters, dealers, or in case of the end consumer, when the product is reaching there, so that in case of the control of logistic matter can be done, or in case of the optimization, it's total process, like in case of the expert optimizer in the last session, it was discussed very well in case of optimizer, in case of PID loop creation, in case of the efficiency improvement, the mining activities, or in case of reduction of the process like prediction of blame, or operation in case of direct operation by the CCR, or robotic way collecting of sample, like robotic we have to provide. So the right sample will come, which is being analyzed, and auto correction will be there in the system. So which will be a sustainable operation of the process, which directly impacting in case of reduction of power and fuel. So these are the technology we have to work upon.
Yeah, it's a bouquet of initiatives or possibilities that you have mentioned, but taking us back to the place where we probably need to focus and which is a common thread to all the responses from my esteemed panelists. And that common thread is carbon capture, storage and utilization, because I think it is understood well that if we don't talk about, contemplate making a dent in that larger part of carbon emission, we will be working in the periphery. And we will be also losing focus. So and that has been also the common thread. You have all mentioned in the first breath about carbon capture, storage and utilization, and that there may be other possibilities, which is calcined clay, and those may also have similar or little lesser impact. Now, keeping our focus on that common thread, and I'm little deviating from what I had originally thought of asking. Yesterday, in one of our sessions, a scientist mentioned a term called TRL. Did you all remember TRL? I think the full form of TRL, which I forget what it was exactly, I think it was technology readiness level or something like that. and he said there is a term called TRL in experimentation, research, development, where there is a scale of 1 to 10. I did not know this term, but I liked the term. And I thought this term has a lot of relevance in the current context, that there is some research work that may be at TRL 1, some may be at TRL 2, but unless it goes to TRL 9, it is not commercialized. So this we came to know yesterday, and I want to apply this to our discussion about carbon capture, storage, and utilization, because it is probably a place where it can be eminently applied to discuss where you are. If our journey of, and this is for the global cement industry, if our journey for commercializing and making it feasible, carbon capture and all that, is a fairly long journey. If we want to shorten that journey and take it from TRL 1 to TRL 9 quickly, I mean, suppose it takes normally 20 years, but we want to do it in 10 years. It means putting more money into it, because the only thing that works well is money, and things can be shortened by money. So I don't know, maybe all of you will be interested to tell us a little bit about what are the funding opportunities, because all, as I said, all climate mitigation initiatives have a business case. Because everywhere we are also reducing cost, mind you, whether it is alternative fuels, whether it is efficiencies, whether it is logistics. But this is one case where working on commercializing carbon capture is not going to give us any money in the first 20 years or 10 years. So this is a difficult one. So how are you going to get the money? Are we going to get the money from our company's coffers? Are we going to get the money from our industry body? Are we going to get the money from international funding organizations? Are we going to get the money as part of Paris Agreement? So I am not very clear about it, but any of you, can throw some light. I think the audience will be delighted.
If I can go first. Couple of thoughts. Couple of thoughts on this. First question, in fact, I know you've asked a question, Shumit, but raising a question in return. Should we restrict the carbon capture, utilization, and storage discussion only to the cement sector? That's the first question I have. Should it not be extended in terms of, there are a lot of other hard-to-abate industries where CO2 is generated.
Good point.
So it should possibly go beyond cement. There is steel, there's cement and steel which coexist. So there are many things that can be done there, oil and gas, so many such instances that exist. So rather than restricting it only to one industry, which is cement, I guess looking at cross-industry and of course getting a multi-industry aspect here, keeping the larger good in mind is probably the way. The second element for me would possibly be it'll have to be, I mean, at the end of the day, it'll have to be a joint effort put in by everyone, in addition to, of course, the cement and the industry body, but cross-industry and the government. That's the way it'll possibly work out. There'll have to be some amount of governance, there'll have to be some amount of outside-in regulation and monetary. Otherwise, while you mentioned, Shumit, that there is always an economic argument that exists, but the key question, and hand on heart, all of us also run businesses, hand on heart, the economic argument should also play out with some definiteness over time for these calls and these decisions to be taken. That balance has to be maintained and done. Unless the entire industry comes together and cross-industry comes together, this journey is probably going to be that much longer. And I'm basing this out of, I've seen many discussions that happen at COP28 this time. And while everybody understands and recognizes what needs to be done, but somehow I don't see the urgency or the need to do to get the action on the ground going. And the answers are very obvious because there are conflicting priorities. Right? So this for me is a much bigger element. So it'll have to be a combination of multiple industries getting together. It's very expensive, getting the statutory or regulatory element of the government involved, and of course getting banks to fund it. A combination of these three will have to possibly play out for this to go. And it's going to be a longest journey. I don't see this happening at least for the next 2 to 3 years. Things will just about fall in place. I see this kicking in somewhere around, this is my own educated guess, a personal view, somewhere around 2030 or thereon. And yes, is it too late for our 2050, 50% reduction and a 2070, 0%? Possibly we'll be on the way by then, but yes, that'll be some of my thoughts, Sumit, to share with you.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, this is a key question in my mind, and the source of funding, the strategies for funding to bring it from TRL 1, where I guess today it is, to TRL 9 in a double quick time. So I would reserve, yeah, I'll do the summing up once I get everybody's response, but this remains crucial in my mind. So who would like to go next?
As the Nilesh ji mentioned, ki we have to put in a lot of efforts, and as you also rightly mentioned, it has to be a commercial case. So my thoughts on this is whether we can use the carbon which has been captured, as they have given example of the food industry, or there's a urea industry which may use this CO2. So by using this captured CO2, do we assign some kind of green rating to those products? For example, in mining sector, we have the 5-star rating based on various sectors. And based on the ratings, we can have some kind of incentives from the government also, or from international agencies. So basically to involve all the people, right? Like the cement industry who is generating CO2, unfortunately. Normally it's the polluters pay principle, which we already do at many places. But here we can also utilize the consumer who is going to use this CO2 and give him some incentive to use this captured CO2, which probably helps us shorten the journey time. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a different angle, interesting angle, no doubt, but the funding of, I mean, these are technological possibilities, very interesting possibilities. It has been talked about, like algae and all these things, but the money is still eluding us unless and until we can find a structure and of investing in this research, find a format, find a body, find governance that Nilesh talked about. So please, Mr. Gupta, you would not like to go next?
What I feel actually in case of the carbon capture, till that we do not have a collaboration, like in case of other industry which is going to be utilized, they should be able to share some of the investment for developing a infrastructure or capturing it, and they will utilize what Mr. Pankaj said, that we have to create some green rating or something for utilizing of their product also. So they will also come forward, actually, in case of sharing the financial aspects. But the governance is very much important. And definitely what Mr. Nilesh said, that it is not binding only for cement industry, but for all the industry. When a government will make some regulation for all the industries, then definitely it will come forward, because the price is also a part in the product. Product price is also a part. When somebody is going to have an investment, definitely he is going to see what the profit share is coming out of. Because just only for the environment and whatever the cost we are incurring in this, that's supposed to come in case of the return of investment. Maybe not very shorter, let it be longer, but it's supposed to be. If only one industry is being to make it, the product what we are producing it may not be viable to the customer. So that is the important part. So we have to look forward how we can make a governance, the law, regulation. That should not be restricted only for the one industry. It should be for all. Second thing, that we have to give some incentive to the person who is going to be utilized or who is going to produce by the government. Both should come a collaboration to start with. That should be there for the longer term.
Yeah, so I mean, before I come to Mr. Garg on this question, 50 years back, there was no PPC. There was no PPC in India. Now today, PPC is produced in like anybody's business. So it has been accepted by the market. Not only that, a great cooperation or collaboration or working arrangement, whatever you call it, has started working between the power plants and the cement industry, right? And this is also, although not exactly comparable situation, but then what you are talking about for CO2 as a input to other industry. So the cooperation, and there the cement industry drove it. 50 years back, cement industry drove it to absorb fly ash into PPC. Cement industry drove the discussions with BIS. So the question is, I'll come back to you later, question you can think about, has that collaboration that you are talking about with other possible consumers of CO2, has that got to be initiated by the cement industry? Has it started somewhere? Has it started bearing fruit, or who is taking the initiative? Those are the kind of questions that may come in audience's mind. Mr. Garg, your response?
Yeah, I mean, I'll again talk of from the logistics end.
Yes, sure.
Basically, internationally, there's this concept of carbon credits in the transport sector also.
Right.
And especially international organizations, especially shipping organizations, for instance, Maersk Line and others, they are going in a very big way for manufacture of ships which are going to run on ethanol. And similarly, I feel that even although cement industry is primarily Indian and I don't think there's any international company involved, but for getting the recognition for carbon credits, they will have to and perforce move to greener forms of transport. And therefore, they will have to invest in these forms of transport. For instance, the Indian Railways has a scheme where you can own your own rakes, wagons that is, and you get a rebate on the freight. So a lot of companies are doing it, and a lot of private wagons and rakes are running on the Indian Railway system currently. And the number is not small, it's in hundreds and thousands. So therefore, I feel that the cement industry also, because now cement is moving into bulk form of transportation rather than bagged form. And we are now having technologies which can move bulk cement by rail also. Earlier, bulk cement has been moving by road, but now wagons have been developed and designed for bulk transportation of cement. So therefore, that is where investment will come in, and the companies will benefit in the form of carbon credits, in the form of rebates given by the Indian Railways for owning your own wagons, and that itself will give us the reduction in CO2 emissions, etc. And of course, as I said, in the case of road transport, they will perforce have to move to EV type of vehicles, and there again, the same kind of credits will be available to them.
Mr. Garg's mention about this carbon credits has actually brought me to a question that I already had, so I would also like to ask the others. He has already talked about the possibilities of carbon credits in the logistics area. I would like to ask the other colleagues on the panel that given that the government of a country, I'm talking here about India, has given a commitment to Paris Accord, etc., about certain, 1.5 degrees and certain reductions in CO2, etc. So the government has also a responsibility to facilitate for it to happen in the carbon-intense industries. And the government will obviously be trying to do their job on that. And one of the ways the government works is regulatory framework. Example of carbon credit given by Mr. Garg. So how do you as industry leaders look at the future government regulatory framework evolving? Or better still, how would you like it to evolve for the regulatory framework to facilitate your journey or incentivize your journey towards net zero?
I will tell you one thing on this, like what Mr. Garg said, that the railway has given a opportunity for the industries for adding the wagons, own your wagon scheme, as well as in case of the bulk movement, we have BCCW racks, and where we are moving the fly ash, as well as in case of cement, bulk, and there we are getting the freight benefit. So that becoming a viability, and based on that, the people are coming forward. Same thing, the government is having an energy efficient, the perform, achieve and trade, the PAT. So where everybody is working, how to reduce the energy, because there is a certificates are being allotted. If we are not achieving, there is a penalize, or we are achieving that we are giving a positive credit certificate. Like this, the government has to make in case of the carbon capture, or in case of the reduction of the CO2 emission, that they have to set up them some target, and based on that, they have to provide a certificate or some incentive. Okay, based on this set presently you have, of course, in case of PAT, something it is being captured actually, but we have to, in case of the carbon capture, if they are providing some incentive based on, then the people may come forward. Because we have to neutralize the investment what we are making it, then only it is possible and aggressively the people will follow.
Yeah, so before I come to Mr. Kejriwal or Mr. Narvekar, yeah, PAT and all that is existing and they are good. But isn't the industry in India working little bit in isolation or alone? Does the industry go to the government with a wish list of the future regulatory? You have mentioned a few, but are we really canvassing? Are we really working hard to get these regulations in place for any CO2 related incentives or anything which will make the investment in CO2 capture possible? So is there such a work as part of an industry body or as part of anybody individually? Because the government is not going to move so soon on its own. It needs to be prodded little bit by the industry. At least that's what has happened in the past. Yeah, so.
I will tell you, there is the body, GCCA. Recently, actually, the people have visited to see that how we can use the maximum alternate fuel, like in case of the 80% or 90% they are using it. So the body is there, and we are putting our the wish list to them that what are the things to be taken care, as well as CMA is there, Cement Manufacturing Association. In that also they are putting up to the Niti Aayog. So what are the things and what are the constraints we have actually to achieve neutral carbon by 2050. So for that, they have to make some regulations or some incentives-based scheme for the cement industry to support the government of Paris Agreement.
Sumit, a very interesting question. Now, if I should just take a step back and try and answer this, for me, I would like to break it into three parts. Okay? And I'm not just answering the government, what the role the government has to play in towards this. I believe there's some role that the cement industry needs to play. There's some role the government will have to play. And maybe the end users, in this case, the builders or developers, as I would call it, the recipients of the final product. And I've written down a couple of points. Just want to share some thoughts there. Let me start from the cement industry side. One, of course, is, I mean, it's a logical thing. I guess governance, strong governance is fundamentally needed from a communication, transparency needed about what we want to do to all the stakeholders, be it government, be it all the other invested parties in us. Dare I say, I guess even the awareness and education, while all of us are invested in this, we understand, but I still say the understanding that blended cement is probably much superior in the long term as compared to just using plain OPC. Just that understanding has to percolate a lot deeper. There was a reference that you mentioned about how can the cement industry make a larger impact. There are partnerships and collaborations like what Guptaji mentioned about GCCA. There is Zintio. There's another such cross-industry body which is together, which is picking up cross-industry projects to drive impact. And that'll be another forum through which representation can be made, where the government doesn't start looking at saying, okay, if the cement industry was to come with their recommendations, they probably have a vested interest. What will happen to people who are upstream or downstream, and how does it impact? So take programs or take issues which cut across the industries. That's the other way. Of course, regulatory compliance. Now coming specifically on the government side, right? Today, if I look at it, I'm probably touching on a slightly contentious point, but I think I would still like to touch it. The green building standards which are defined, right? I don't think there's adequate amount of weightage given to embodied carbon within that. The question is why? Now, it'll open a Pandora's box, I understand that. But the point is, if that can happen, and it need not happen overnight, it can happen over a period of time. We can have a transition map. But if that happens, then automatically behaviors of all the other players who are associated with this will also start to change. Right? So today it doesn't happen. I think Griha controls it possibly, and there are ways in which we can possibly approach it. We talk a lot about we'd like to increase our alternate fuel requirement. I think all of us here work aggressively to try and bring down our fuel costs, and I think there's a lot of effort being put in by us saying 6% TSR, 7% TSR, 15%, 20%. But the point is how much of our refuse, RDF, or the municipal solid waste is actually available for the industry to be able to take in. The kind of red tapeism and the kind of issues that exist there, just trying to get it and use it is humongous. Of course, the other one, which again possibly would be adoption of blended cement. Now, there's a lot of infrastructure work happening all across. Why can't we come up with a very clear statement saying wherever the infrastructure work is happening, use products which have a lesser CO2 impact? Automatically, the choices which will be exercised, hence the behavior of the various players who provide here would fundamentally change as well. And of course, to do all of this, as I said, I mean, if it hurts somebody, somebody else benefits. So I guess there has to be adequate incentives and a balance which has to be brought out, which will have to be through financial incentives, could be taxes, could be carbon credits, could be any other financial way in which it gets compensated and balanced out. So that is how I would probably look at it.
I mean, before Mr. Kejriwal has his final say on this question, I'll come to him in a short while, but IGBC and Griha are not government organizations and they're less bureaucratic, and I'm sure they're more amenable and flexible to approaches made by us, and one can give it a go. On the matter of translating the green building codes and green building certifications into incentives, whether it is municipal tax, whether it is anything, electricity tariff, etc. Those, of course, are government matters, and those have to be only achieved through a sustained campaign. So my interest was to know whether such sustained campaigns with the government have started or not. Because the industry has to speak in one voice to the government, and then also it works very slowly. So, Mr. Kejriwal.
I think suggestions given by Nilesh ji and Gupta ji all are very practical. Of course, a lot of hard work has to go into it, as you have rightly mentioned. But a joint and a concentrated effort in that direction will only get us the results. You earlier mentioned that the industry adopted the blended cement. That was a very clear-cut case of profitability in that. It was very easily visible.
Business case.
Business case was there in that. Now with the investments we have to put in this and the poor realizations, it is eventually the regulations and the incentives which will go hand in hand. When we started our TSR journey, getting the RDF itself is a huge pain. We wanted, the cement industry wanted that the factory gate price should be 0 or negative. We lobbied for it for a long time, but I don't think really anything worked out. Finally now, market forces as well as regulation that, okay, we had our RPOs, we had to compulsorily go for the PAT scheme as mentioned. So with those schemes, compulsorily, the axe falls on the cement industry, but okay, that will be a slow process. They cannot ask us to make a TSR of 50% in 2 years or 3 years. It's not commercially viable. Okay, they can tell us to make it 5%. That we are able to comply. Maybe at some cost also we'll be able to absorb it. Just 1 or 2 points on the alternative fuel. I would like to say here that we have been using bamboo as an alternative fuel in our captive power plant. So that is also one good resource where bamboo acts as a natural carbon sink, and as well as we are utilizing it as a fuel to run our base load power plants. Because with the problem with renewable energy is the absorption of the base load. So that helps us in that. And also when we were talking about the EV adoption, I think EV adoption in the tippers or the trucks, that is still not being promoted a lot. Though apparently we have also seen the working that it is kind of viable on its own also. But as government had come out with some incentives for the e-scooters and all those things, maybe some scheme for the heavy equipments in the electrical space would also help for a faster adoption of these vehicles. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So can someone help me? How are you doing for time? We can go for one more round of questions, or we can close here for audience questions. Can someone tell me? Or 2, 3. So we'll go for audience questions now? Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, fine. So, thanks for interesting. The responses are interesting to me. I guess audience would have also liked it to some extent, to a varying degree, I'm sure. So, any questions from the audience anywhere? Can we? Yeah. Can you please tell us about you, and then to whom are
Thank
you
you very much.
specifically,
It is to the complete panel. My name is R.K. Pillai. I'm the Vice President from Janu Tech. And my learning today was that, the carbon emission, carbon capture, and the renewable energy are the three segments which we touched upon. I would like to tell you that I have also a partner from Edibon, Madrid, Spain, who along with the European Union have created a project called MOF for Air, and they have successfully done pilot projects for Turkey, for France, and for Norway in reducing and capturing CO2 to 92%. So this project is now been brought to me to India, and this project has been successfully done by Total, by Shell company. So they have successfully done in the chemical industry, in the incinerator industry, and also in various industries. But the cement industry is available for research, and they are ready to collaborate with Indian cement manufacturers along with an institute. They are ready to give the pilot project at a subsidized, because the research is already done. So the pilot project is now available for Indian cement industry, and they would like to have the cement industry coming in as a partner for this research.
What's
So
your question? What's your question?
My question is, will the Cement Industry Association or the cement industry willing to participate in this project?
Okay. Who would like to?
Please go ahead, go ahead.
It's good, whatever you are saying, but we have to see that because the emission, carbon emission from cement industry is huge. I do not know where you have done this project, what is the quantity you are capturing, but in case of cement, because it's a decomposition of the lime, and there the percentage of the CO2 emission is too high. So what will be the infrastructure you require? That is important. What the investment will be there. In case of the pilot projects, it's okay. We can look forward and we'll connect with you that how this technology will work out. And based on that, we'll look forward.
Yeah, because it's now
Yeah, can
already
you please,
tested.
excuse me, can you please let somebody else ask a question? Yeah.
My name is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
My name is Karni Singh. I work with Lafarge Umium. My question is that there is so much talk of electrification and things like that, but there is no talk of utilizing electricity in the mining sites or on the mining sites. So considering that limestone is a huge mining enterprise, I mean cement entails so much. What is the extent and what is the plan and what are the hurdles in utilizing electricity at the mining sites rather than diesel?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like in case of Ultratech, I will tell you that we are taking a trial for use of the electric vehicles, like in case of the tippers. Of course, dumper, nobody has applied. And excavator, we have tried with electrical one, but we did not get a very good result of, because in case of electrification or operating the excavator is a difficult task because it is moving one bench to another bench. So that is the important part. But now in case of the tippers, we have already worked for about 40 tonners of tippers. That we are taking a trial, which is very successful, and we'll be looking forward that we have to use the electric vehicles in case of the mine operation.
We also have a similar experience with electric tippers, and as I mentioned earlier, they look quite viable, and with maybe some support from the government, it will accelerate the process.
Wonderful.
Can I ask a question? Hello. Yeah, my name is K.N. Rao from My Home Industries. I'm a corporate head. My question is the challenge is what is the success happened in Europe and other developed countries in terms of carbon capture. So what are these, what we can actually copy paste in India? Because most of the projects in carbon capture and utilization projects are all government funded. And where the entire infrastructure, you need to, whatever you have captured, you need to get to the ground, go to the ground. You require a huge amount of piping and geological study, and that is something which is not in the hands of cement industry, or in the hands of a steel or a power industry. So that's something, it needs a collaboration between the government and the industry. If you are able to, government creates the infrastructure in their part of the scope, cement industry will be able to do the capture. But utilization and storage is not in their game, because utilization is on the other sector of chemical fertilizers and oil and other applications, and those people has to ultimately collaborate. Another thing is, we have been successfully demonstrated the waste to energy plants in municipalities with this preferential tariff of power at 7 rupees, 8 rupees, and also we given the concessional grant of capex of 50%. Now, when we want to do at least a demonstration project of all carbon capture utilization storage projects, need to be given the same status what the waste to energy plants have been actually given, and that is one aspect. And second thing is that we require to see that the carbon market, like today the European market, the carbon is sold at $100 per ton, and in UK it is being sold almost €100 £100 per ton. In India, the currently carbon price is $1 per ton. Now, if you are able to create the reliable carbon market, most probably India will be able to get an additional source of incentive from the carbon pricing. Right now, we need
I must offer my sincerest apologies for interjecting. The round is for questions and answers, not opinions.
Yeah, Mr. Rao, I mean, very good suggestions, but not really a question, because
the question is, what is the industry? The first question is that is the industry is doing the advocacy related to these issues? My question is that these are the things which are
any one of us, we want to take it.
Just a small thought on this. Like Mr. Rao is saying that the government should create a landfill where we can put the CO2. I think earlier this was the trend where the government had the landfill where the waste was collected, and now again they are using the legacy waste to run the power plants. I doubt whether this cycle will be again redone in this case of carbon capture. We directly need to go to an end use of the carbon captured. I think putting it in the ground may not be the right revenue source.
No, but one thing that you mentioned is that it has been done by governments in Europe. So can you just look at it? I mean, if it is a model that has been done in the Europe, probably it can be copy-pasted. That's what you see. So I think
actually the carbon which is being generated in case of the Europe for the cement industry, because their volume is too less. If you compare it to ours, we are producing about more than 600 million ton of cement. Like China is also about 1,200 million ton of cement. But in case of the Europe, you see that the smaller plant. So there we cannot comparison with our the volume.
yeah, but we can still
We can work
have
out
a look at
what
it.
Mr. Rao said.
I think
Definitely we have to work out on.
I think we'll, sorry for the delay, and
Okay.
we'll call it a day.
I am Professor G.K. Pradhan from AKS University, Satna. Right since morning, I am finding a lot of innovative things are discussed, sustainability and all those things. From the mining point of view, because mining is your main source of your profitability, what I understand, because we are very close, as AKS, we are very close to Ultratech, Hindalco, JSW Steel, not cement, not yet with cement. We are very closely associated with them, suggesting various technological new features and other things. What are the things you are going to project to the future mining scenario? Say whether it is JSW or Ultratech is doing a very good job. We have got some of the best mines like Rajasri and etc. and Kotputli is another thing where we did a lot of experiments. What is your new phase of innovating in the mining side? Because so far since in the morning, I think
Professor,
mining part you
Professor,
deliberate.
Please, we are absolutely out of time. I'll request my panelists to discuss with you maybe in the break.
Okay.
Please bear with us. Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. We have the stalwarts of the industry right here in front of us who have taken out time from their schedules, gracing the occasion, sharing their thoughts. Could I please request everyone to kindly come up front for a group picture? And Mr. Pratap Dore is here too. Well, given the state of questions and the length of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, it is safe to say that this has been quite the productive session, and this certainly calls for a huge round of applause. So let's thank them with a big round of applause, everybody.